Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are covering Lesson 4 of A Course in Miracles, the workbook for students. And I will begin by reading our lesson from the day. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see. Let me read that again. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad thoughts. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lie beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones, and all of the words good and bad in this lesson have quotations around them. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. Yay, thank you. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event that it contains. For example, this thought about, you name it, whatever, does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. So true. How well he knows us. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with the thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. Let me read the lesson again before we sit for a minute in practice. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see. The things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Remember, we are not only selecting thoughts that we traditionally think of as bad, like judgment, shame, fear. We can also select thoughts that we think are good, like the things I do make me good. The things I do, the things I say make me worthwhile. Let me review line 4. This thought about whatever comes to mind does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on the street, and so on. Okay, let's begin our practice sitting together in a minute of silence. Noticing the thoughts that come to mind and reminding ourselves that these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things that we see around us. When we do this practice, we will often begin to observe that we associate the things around us with, for example, safety or lack thereof, with success or lack thereof. So, for example, something is different. Something is as simple as noticing the cat hair on the rug of my carpet. I will associate with shame, failure, my house is not clean, I've got to do more work. I associate it with the struggle for survival. So many of these things I completely take for granted. Using today's practice, I can become freed from the meaning that I've attached to these thoughts and the things that I see around me. This exercise can be wonderfully freeing. All right, let me begin by timing our moment of silence, where we sit in practice, observing our thoughts. These thoughts do not mean anything. They're like the things I see. Inhaling deeply. As our minds wander, bring them back to the breath, back to the body. Observing our thoughts. And calling any thoughts to mind. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see. And just notice any of the thoughts that come to mind. Thoughts of past, thoughts of future. Notice the emotions that we associate with those thoughts. Shame, fear, worry, perhaps joy, fulfillment, ease. Let's continue to sit in silence for another moment, observing our thought and breath. One of the wonderful benefits of us doing the lesson and meditation together is that it forces us to focus when we might be spaced out or distracted. And for me, that is the absolute truth. I'm so grateful to share this time with you. So let us sit in silence for another moment or so, observing that our thoughts do not mean anything, and allowing any thought to arise. And giving thanks for each of the thoughts that arise, because we release them in this practice to the higher self, Holy Spirit. We release them to God. Reminding ourselves we only want to see the truth. We are so grateful to be on this path of learning and practice and living. We are so grateful for the opportunity to let go of what doesn't serve. In this case, in today's lesson, what doesn't serve is these thoughts that don't mean anything. Let's take a few more breaths together in silence. There's Balthazar. He distracted me earlier by ripping on my screen. And my thought was, the fact that he is damaging my house doesn't mean anything, really. I'm so grateful for this little fuzzball. Thank you for joining me in today's lesson. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for lesson 5. I invite you, as we are instructed, to do this practice at least one more time today. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for lesson 5.